learn stuff.
Yeah. All right, so this is part 3 of our video on using Photoshop to prepare images for the web and for social media sites. In previous videos, we've talked about bringing in raw images and how you can use the crop tool to change the size, the resolution, and the aspect ratio of an image and prepare it for whatever you're going to use it for, your Facebook banner or your website or your LinkedIn profile, whatever you need. We also looked at how a lot of these sites like LinkedIn and Facebook provide all the information you need in their help sections about what those aspect ratios and or resolutions should be. So now that we've done all this work with this picture of my dog Pepper, we are going to do the final step of exporting and talk about file format options. So under the File menu, you can see the option to export. And right here you see Save for Web Legacy. It's called Save for Web Legacy because Adobe is phasing this exporting option out and replacing it with Export As. So even though it is a very much of a favorite for web designers and graphic designers, and not everyone's really happy about this being phased out. There are benefits to export as, and we might as well get with the times and learn the current way. So let's click on Export As, and the window that pops up looks like this. So here's our image. And you can see that we've done a lot of the work already. The image size is here and correct for a Facebook ad image with a link. And you could change this option right here if you wanted to, but we've already done that. You can also have options to the canvas size and some converting options as well. Now you'll see right here that the primary thing to choose here is what file format we want. And the options available to us are all very specific and very web centric. So they're very specific: Ping, JPEG, GIF, and SVG. Now, the two most common file formats for electronic purposes on the web and on social media is JPEG and Ping, and I can prove it to you. As you can see on the design recommendations, you've got JPEG and Ping mentioned, and on LinkedIn, our other example, they do mention JPEG and Ping in here as well somewhere. There we go, Ping and JPEG. So it really depends on the service or the site or the website or even the template within your website service if they accept Ping, but it's so commonplace and so popular now that it's very rarely does an electronic system or service not accept Ping as well as JPEG. So how do you choose which one? Well, there's a few differences, and we can look at those really quickly. Ping is capable of holding transparency information. That means if you had designed a star or a logo for your business, if you think of it as a logo of some kind, you would want to be able to put that logo on top of other content in a PowerPoint presentation or on top of a poster or some other design you're doing in, say, Adobe Illustrator or Adobe InDesign for a publication. And you want the transparent components, this white stuff, to actually be see-through, transparent, so that whatever background you have as another element is seen through. If you get that dreaded white box around a logo, it's because it's not the right file format or it doesn't have any transparency information in it to begin with. But saving it as a Ping will allow this transparency information to be held in the file, and your computer and the softwares will know how to deal with it. So if you want transparency, JPEG's out, you have to use Ping. If you don't need transparency, then you can consider the fact that there's some variations in the way that Ping and JPEG actually store the information that makes up the image. And you can see here that a Ping has very little loss of quality when it is compressed to make it an appropriate size for an electronic file format. So both of these file formats are for electronic purposes, for the web and whatnot. And both are compressed in some way or another to make the file smaller than its original form. But there are different types of compression. Ping is not a lossy, it's a lossless form of compression. That means there's no loss of actual quality of individual pixels. JPEG, however, is a lossy, or it does have loss of data when it compresses. So you can see these anomalies and corruptions that are happening in some of the components of this image, particularly on the edges of these shapes. You can see it. So yes, this does appear sometimes in a JPEG depending on its quality and makeup. But the good side of JPEG is that the file format is incredibly small while still retaining a good majority of the quality. Ping is a larger file format for the same size, but the payoff is that you won't get any of this degradation. So smaller file size and higher quality to some extent. Keep in mind that as far as usage, JPEG is great for photography. If you want a photo to look good with the least amount of file size, you can't beat JPEG. Ping, the photo would look good as well, but the file size would be remarkably bigger. Where does Ping really work well is with text. If you want text within an image to look crisp and readable, even when it's small, JPEG can cause you some trouble because the small text will get corrupted, like with these corruptions we see here, these anomalies, and it can make it hard to read, at least for small text. Doesn't mean JPEG doesn't always work, but Ping is a better option. So it's about choosing what kind of file size you can accept and which one looks better for your purposes. And of course, Ping has transparency and JPEG does not. So that's really what you have to consider when you make this choice right here. This is a photograph, and we don't need any transparency information, and there's no text. So let's go with JPEG. And of course, you can still have an option for quality, and even an 80 to 70% will still be practically unnoticeable for the average viewer who's just going and seeing those images very quickly. So let's try 75-ish%. All of our other settings are good from our previous work, and we're just going to export all. And of course, choose your location and save it. And I would name it whatever. Final. Where am I? Final for web. Dog winter. And let's save it. So that's pretty much it. That is how you would, learn the basics of reformatting, editing, and working with images straight off of your professional camera in the highest possible quality, a raw image, and working that down to a web-friendly JPEG. If we open this up and have a look at it, there it is. The quality is still remarkable, and yet the file size, if I check it here, the file size is only 320 kilobits, which is pretty darn good for a high quality photo and will download quickly and won't have too much of an impact on the web page loading time. So good results, small file size. That's what we're here to learn. If you do want to continue on and think about putting text and stuff on top of this photo, we will have other videos in that regard, and it could change your choices about Ping and JPEG. Maybe you need to use a Ping depending on what a text or what other elements you may put in if you were designing a more complex image for an advertisement or some other kind of purpose. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. Like this video, and please consider subscribing to Greg in a Box and helping us out. And thanks so much. Learn stuff. Yeah.